Hello, Sacramento City College students. Let's talk about scholarships. How many of you have not applied for a scholarship through SCC before? How many of you think you need a high GPA to earn a scholarship? How many of you know when the deadline to apply this academic year is? These questions and more will be answered in this video. Hello, my name is David Fabianar, and I am a member of the Honors and Awards Committee and faculty in the Communication Department. I have been conducting scholarship workshops the past few years and wish we could do this in person so I could see your faces and answer questions in real time. But alas, if you have questions, I'll leave my email address, and at the end of the workshop, please email me. The purpose of this video is to give you a look behind the curtain of this application process. I have served on this scholarship selection committee in the past and want you to benefit from my experience by offering you some tips or best practices for applying for a scholarship here at Sacramento City College. More than 475 scholarships are offered each year. Based on your application, you will be matched for as many as you qualify for. Last year, the college awarded over $200,000 in scholarships. That's 332 awards given to 189 students. So being selected for a scholarship may be easier than you think. The first thing you need to know is the time frame. You can apply from January 15th, 2021 to March 5th at 11:59 p.m. And how do I get to the site, you may ask? Well, 3 easy steps. Type in hub.losrios.edu and then click on the Los Rios scholarships and fill out the application. It's as easy as that. Before we get started on the application, I want to address some frequently asked questions when I conduct this in person. Obviously, we're not in person, so I'll try to anticipate the questions you may have. There are top 5 frequently asked questions that I've included, and you're looking at number 1. How many units do I have to have completed to be eligible for a scholarship? Well, at Sacramento City College, you need to have successfully completed 6 units and be currently taking 6 units in the present semester. The next frequently asked question is, do I need a GPA or a high GPA to qualify? And the thing is no, many scholarships are not based on GPA. That there are, donors want a variety of criterion to be fulfilled, and, it can be school scholarships. So we've had a few scholarships where if you went to a specific elementary school, you're eligible. These scholarships are meant for a specific, perhaps middle school, and that way you have fulfilled the criterion. Field of study scholarships, for future teachers or future engineers or future attorneys, there are specific scholarships there for you. And additionally, we look at need as criterion. Lastly, there's a variety of student-specific scholarships. It could be gender or nationality. It could be for an LGBTQIA student, or we have a scholarship that I know one of the donors requests it go to a Portuguese American or a Latinx student. And so you can see how the GPA is not the only criterion that is needed. So another frequently asked question is, how many scholarships can I apply for and be awarded? And you're going to like this answer because there's no limit. So you can win more than one scholarship. Question number 4, I am undocumented or international student. May I apply? And yes, you may. And the last question that is frequently asked in these workshops is, am I allowed to apply for other Los Rios College scholarships, American River or Cosumnes or Folsom Lake scholarships? Yes, as long as you meet each college's eligibility requirements. At Sacramento City College, as I mentioned, you have to complete 6 units and be enrolled in 6 units presently. So, on to the application. And let's get on to the application. Taking me a second. There we go. Enlarge it. So this is the application you will see once you go to this site, and after you fill in your name and email address, etc., you're going to enter this demographic data and the number of units you're taking. You continue down to the extracurricular activities, which I think is an important criterion that you're going to want to let us know about. If you're a student athlete, if you're in Phi Theta Kappa, etc., if you're volunteering in your community, as well as if you're an EOP&S student or a DACA student, if you're first generation, former foster youth. These are important criterion that the committee needs to know about and will apply to specific scholarships. If you're a promise student, a single parent, a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces. And then you get down to these 4 major questions that the committee will really take a look at. And your educational goals. One thing that I know that we'd like to see is you fill these out in great detail, not in one or few, just a couple sentences or phrases, but really give it some thought. I'd recommend you write 4 mini essays, honestly, and have, if you don't feel confident in your writing ability, have somebody in the writing center online take a look at it and help tutor you, because we have those resources available. And this is a great way to use them. So I would, again, recommend writing 4 little mini essays, because then you can cut and paste for this application, but for also, many others. I'm going to show you links to scholarships that are available to you outside of Sacramento City College too. So take the time to really develop these ideas. So educational goals, that's one of the first things you're going to have to explain to us really what explain these in detail. How did you develop the interest in the field? Why do you want to get a college education? What has your college experience been like? The clearer the picture, the better. And even if you're unsure, I try to identify a goal that you have been thinking about and that is in line with a career goal. For instance, I would really like to earn a teaching credential and teach English at the high school level. So it gives us some clarity. And then the next one, I think you can really put your heart into, it's the career goals. And what I like to tell people is, tell us your why here. Why are you motivated to reach this specific career goal? Again, you're creating a story, this narrative that you want to stand out to the committee. And so I would use some emotion. I would explain what motivates you. So for instance, I want to be a nurse because I was so impacted by the nurses' care that took care of my loved one and how unbelievably helpful they were to our family. Or, I want to be an engineer because as a child I was captivated by the rebuilding of the Bay Bridge because I grew up in San Francisco and I saw it progress every day. Or I want to be a civil rights attorney because of all the injustice that I have witnessed in the legal system, and I really want to do something about it. So you're filling these out. You're giving us a really clear picture of what motivates you, and not just answering these with a few sentences. You're really, again, developing some ideas here. And then the next one is related to the finances. How are you paying for your college education? And, again, there's no shame in needing money, especially in the middle of a pandemic where everybody's losing their job. Are you a first generation college student and no money was put aside for you, Tell us if you're the first of 5 kids or the last of 5 kids and no money is being saved for you. Are you depending on Pell Grants, working far too many hours maybe, which makes life really difficult to balance, all that needs to be balanced. Are you, a single parent, etc. So really explain to us what the need is. And lastly, the extracurricular activities question, is an important one because, again, developing these ideas and not just writing a couple sentences and moving on is really important. I can't emphasize that enough. Have you been involved in the campus and community? In what kind of leadership in high school or at Sacramento City College have you been a part of? Have you volunteered for nonprofits or for your church groups? Are you volunteering at your kids' school? Are you volunteering, for coaching them in sports? Are you a soccer coach? Anything that you could have done for free or that you did for free and could have been paid for, that's what we're talking about here. And I mean, really think about it. Leadership positions. Of course, there's so many different leadership positions that are in organizations and, at work and whatnot. But really, um, as a parent of four children, parenting is, if you write that you are a parent, you are in a leadership position. You are making important decisions and, having to raise children. Any parent will tell you that's an important leadership position. So I would absolutely write that down. And then that's really it. Those are your four mini essays that I think you should write. If you are a strong writer, that's great. If you're not, please check in with our writing center online and have them take a look at it. And then you're going to ask for a letter of recommendation. That's a requirement. And talk to faculty members. Try to give faculty a month's notice if you want them to write you a letter. If you can, talk to them in their office hours. Zoom office hours during the pandemic, obviously, but I think it really makes a difference if you're asking for a letter to ask somebody to their face, as well as recognize that the Sacramento City College instructor is going to be a preferable choice to someone maybe like a high school teacher or a manager at your workplace. The SEC professor or staff member will most likely have more credibility with the committee. I'd also recommend to follow up with an email a few weeks later just to make sure that the professor writes the letter, because sometimes they get busy and the letter gets put on the back burner. And you got to make sure that you have that letter in, or else we won't consider the application. So for that reason, have a backup. I would ask two people, okay? I would ask two people to make sure you get this letter turned in, and make sure that you follow up, and hopefully it won't be something that is turned in at the last minute. So after you get you get the letter of recommendation submitted, that's really it for the process. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the other opportunities that you have. Because outside of Sacramento City College, there's other scholarship opportunities. And, make sure you're not trying to get a scholarship that costs you money, because it's probably a scam. I want to highlight that. But these are some other scholarship opportunities outside of Sacramento City College. I'm going to scroll through slowly so you don't get motion sickness. But and also, if you want me to give you this list, please email me. Again, like I said, I'll provide my email address at the end of this, and I'll be happy to email this list to you. Okay? So I hope this was helpful. I know it was really fast. Getting all this information into a video of 15 minutes, is a lofty goal, but hopefully you're able to retain some of that information. And please ask me questions if you have them. I really want to help you get some of that money. Every single year, there's money left over that, because there wasn't enough applicants or they didn't fit the criteria. So make sure that doesn't happen. Please get your application in. We're looking at January 15th, again, through March 5th. So that's your window. And make sure you have those conversations with instructors early on, a month before. And you have a wonderful day, and I hope this was helpful. Take care of yourselves.